Hello, everyone. Welcome. Glad you could join us. Today is the last meditation of the spiritual year, the full moon in Pisces. Um, so the next meditation before the new spiritual year is the spring equinox meditation, which will be on the 19th of March. But of course, we will send an email with all the information as usual. Again, thank you for participating in this meditation with us. And let's start. Welcome, Philip.
Thank you very much, Inez. Welcome, everyone. And I've been plagued by internet issues for the past 10 days or so, so I'm really hoping that the sound will be okay tonight. So far, so good, Inez?
Yes, a bit of small breaks, very small breaks, but go on.
Okay, well, anyway, so without further ado, we'll get into the meditation and then I'll be giving a talk about Pisces and various aspects of Pisces. So I'll just turn my video off and share my screen. For those of you who still want to follow the meditation, you can on your screen there. You should be able to see it. Full moon approach to hierarchy, and which will be exact by about 12:30 tomorrow p.m. Western European time. So let's just take a breath or two and release the activity of the day so far. And we sound 3 ohms for personality and group alignment and integration. Personality stands with vivified light, aligned, integrated, and merging with the great light of the soul. You can visualize these 2 spheres of light moving toward one another, merging, becoming one greater sphere of radiance. And we are aware of all the other individuals and groups today meditating around the planet, creating triangles of light, all engaged in the great service of the full moon meditations over the next couple of days. And so with this awareness of our co-workers, we move into the meditation. Stage 1, group fusion. We affirm the fact of group fusion and integration within the heart center of the new group of world servers, which mediates between hierarchy and humanity. And we sound the formula for group integration. I am one with my group brothers, and all that I have is theirs. May the love which is in my soul pour forth to them. May the strength which is in me lift and aid them. May the thoughts which my soul creates reach and encourage them. Page 2, alignment. We project a line of lighted energy toward the spiritual hierarchy of the planet, the planetary heart, the great ashram of Stanakamara, and towards the Christ at the center heart of the hierarchy. Bending a line of light towards the spiritual hierarchy. And then we extend the line of light towards Shambhala, the center where the will of God is known. We thereby link these three planetary centers, Shambhala, hierarchy, and humanity. Page 3, higher interlude. Hold the contemplative mind open to the extraplanetary energies streaming into Shambhala and radiated through hierarchy. Using the creative imagination, endeavor to see the three planetary centers, Shambhala, hierarchy, and humanity, gradually coming into alignment and interplay. And of course, we see ourselves mediating between hierarchy and humanity as members of this new group of world service. Stage 4, meditation. We reflect upon the seed thought for Pisces. I leave the father's home and turning back, I say. I leave the father's home and turning back, I say. Let's reflect upon this for some moments. Stage 5, precipitation. Using the creative imagination, visualize the energies of light, love, and the will to good pouring throughout the planet and becoming anchored on Earth in prepared physical plane centers through which the plan can manifest. We use this six-fold progression of divine love as the sequence of energy precipitation, Shambhala, hierarchy, Christ, the new group of world servers, men and women of goodwill everywhere, and the physical centers of distribution. So we visualize the energies of light, love, and the will to good pouring throughout the planet and becoming anchored on Earth. Stage 6, lower interlude. We refocus our consciousness as a group within the periphery of the great ashram and together sound the affirmation. In the center of all love I stand. From that center I, the soul, will outward move. From that center I, the one who serves, will work. May the love of the divine self be shed abroad in my heart, through my group, and throughout the world. Visualize the downpouring spiritual inflow released from Shambhala through the hierarchy and streaming into humanity through our prepared channel. Consider how these inflowing energies are establishing the pathway of life, becoming world teacher, the Christ. Pathway of light, becoming world teacher, the Christ. Ultimate prayer. Stage 7, distribution. As the great invocation is sounded, visualize the outpouring of light and love and power from the spiritual hierarchy through the 5 planetary centers: London, Darjeeling, New York, Geneva, Tokyo, irradiating the consciousness of the whole human race. Great invocation. From the point of light within the mind of God, let light stream forth into the minds of men. Let light descend on earth. From the point of love within the heart of God, let love stream forth into the hearts of men. May Christ return to earth. From the center where the will of God is known, let purpose guide the little wills of men, purpose which the martyrs know and serve. From the center, which we call the race of men, let the plan of love and light work out, and may it seal the door where evil dwells. Let light and love and power restore the plan on earth. Oh. Oh. Thank you very much, everyone. How's my sound unit?
It's good, Philip. So far,
Very good.
it's more or less good, yes.
So I'm not sure whether everyone has read my new study yet for Pisces. The signs are so profound. There are so many facets that you can endlessly explore in terms of their meanings, in terms of the rays that pass through the sign, in terms of the rulership of planets that distribute the rays, planets that rule the signs at the 3 different levels. So in this latest newsletter, I talk about the esoteric ruler, Pluto, Pluto the destroyer, the ruler of the first ray of will or power, the power part of that equation, Vulcan being the other esoteric ruler of the first ray of will or power. this first ray energy is associated with Shambhala, and we are told by the Tibetan that we are increasingly being exposed to this energy, whereas in the past the hierarchy acted as a shield between humanity and Shambhala, or the first ray force, due to the inability of humanity to really handle that energy. Such a refined frequency. And so the hierarchy took a risk, so to speak, a calculated risk to expose humanity to the Shambhala force in order to speed up the evolution of the planet. And of course, notwithstanding the risks of the point of least resistance of the shadow aspect of the first ray and the expression of ruthlessness and misuse of power. But Pluto, as the asteroid ruler of Pisces, is most appropriate. At the end of the Piscean age, Pluto was discovered or rediscovered, if you like, in 1930 between the two wars, between the great destruction that was going on at the end of the age of Pisces. Through those wars, Pluto was presiding over that and came into human consciousness in 1930 between the two wars. And in astrology, Pluto has been given as the co-ruler of Scorpio, another water sign like Pisces, but far more intense than Pisces. Pisces is much more gentle. But Pluto is the esoteric ruler of Pisces, so these two water signs have a lot in common. In fact, I think advanced Piscean people can be quite scorpionic in many ways in terms of mediating between themselves and others with regard to exposing the underworld within others, within themselves. Can be quite a potent force where a Pisces person can act as a healing mediator in terms of helping an individual to bring up that which is buried, that which is unseen, but which needs to be exposed to the light of day in terms of personal healing. So I start this newsletter off with this quote: "Death in Pisces, Pluto initiation. People born in this sign are frequently to be found serving the race and ministering to its needs upon some level of consciousness. Thus, they are prepared for the final sacrifice in Pisces, which absorbs them back into the originating motive. It is for this reason that the life of service and the directed intention to serve constitute a scientific mode of achieving release. In Aquarius, the sign of world service, the lesson is finally learned, which produces the world savior in Pisces. And of course, the Christ is that world savior archetype who initiated the age of Pisces over 2,000 years ago, and apparently will be coming back to initiate the Aquarian cycle as well, that we're about to start. And of course, this will happen, we are told, sometime after 2025, when the planning for the externalization of all the masters ashrams will take place, and the personnel of all those ashrams, which are all the world servers, aspirants and disciples, will help pave the way for the eventual return in physical form of this being we call Lord Maitreya, or the world teacher. So in a way, Pluto constructively destroys or clears the way, clears the path. And this is interesting in terms of the biblical saying, "I come not to bring peace, but a sword." This is very much the first ray quality of the Christ, who we're told 2,000 years ago established that first connection with Shambhala that had never been established before between senior members of the hierarchy and Shambhala. So that first Gotama thread, he described it as, and there's much I've written about that in various newsletters and so forth. So Pisces is wrapping up the spiritual year before the new spiritual year begins in Aries, tying off loose ends, you might say, letting go and relinquishing, dying to any patterns or crystallizations that have been built up in the last year to allow the new cycle to come in. So we have here, the point I want to make here is that Pluto is the ruler of the first ray, and the last sign precedes Aries, which is a sign which takes the first ray through it. Aries, the first sign, corresponds closely to the first ray of will or power, and that is that the symbol of the first ray is the sword, is the flaming sword of Manjushri in Tibetan Buddhism, you could say. Anyway, Pluto, with that sword or tapping into that first ray, severs the tie that binds the two fishes together so that they can be rejoined without any binding thread. I'm paraphrasing here from esoteric astrology. In other words, cuts through the duality of this sign, of the two fishes of Pisces, and helps to create synthesis and unity as a result of that. Pisces is one of the most dualistic signs of the zodiac. We have other ones too, several other ones. Gemini, one of the most obvious, and also part of the mutable cross. So death in Pisces is quoting again in this other passage, through the energy of Pluto, transformation. Transformation is so vital and so basic that the ancient one is no longer seen. He sinks to the depths of the ocean of life. He descends into hell, but the gates of hell hold him not. He, the new and living one, lives below that which has held him down throughout the ages and rises from the depths unto the heights close to the throne of God. Extraordinarily esoteric statement here. And I do have in my later commentary after this that the ancient one is at once the soul and also the dweller on the threshold. And we know that Pluto presides over hell, the so-called hell realm, the lowest subplanes of the astral plane that humanity has created, just as they've created the heaven state or the higher subplanes of the astral plane. So hell, of course, is something that's been amplified and distorted quite a lot in the Christian tradition and other religious traditions, perhaps, as a place of purgatory, of suffering, and so forth. In many ways, the hell is what all of humanity has created for itself, and we all have that aspect of our nature to redeem and to raise up into heaven, so to speak, over many lifetimes. So just to mention, I'm not going to go through the whole article, but I do encourage you to read it or reread it. There is this other factor of there being no more sea. In other words, the conquering of the astral body, which finally takes place and is demonstrated at the second degree initiation, which is not regarded as a major initiation by the hierarchy, but it's one of the hardest initiations to take, given the nature of desire as it has been so potent in the world since the ancient days of Atlantis. And that desire is a very broad umbrella term for many things with regard to the astral or the emotional nature. So when there is no more sea, there is no more succumbing or being driven or controlled by your astral nature. Mind has presided or triumphed over matter, so to speak. So that's that initiation, like the first initiation, or the first three initiations, in fact, take place on the fixed cross of love, so-called. And excuse me, this mutable cross, I just want to show you a diagram here. I assume you can see my screen. There we have the three crosses of esoteric, the mutable, fixed, and cardinal crosses. And you'll see that Pisces is over here, opposite Virgo, Gemini up here, opposite Sagittarius, the mutable cross, which generically relates to the so-called 700 incarnations that we go through. It's actually many thousands more than that, but it's symbolically 700 before we wake up to the sense of soul and mount the fixed cross, as they call it here, where those first three initiations are taken. Of course, at the moment, many people are going through the first initiation. I think there's a great awakening going on, as most of us are aware, especially the last few years. And especially at a time before this, during the world wars in the 20th century, many people passed through the gate of the first and even the second initiation. And the second initiation has a lot to do with the dilemma of Arjuna on the battlefield, Kurukshetra, with Krishna as his charioteer or symbol of higher self, and his dilemma, his liver and dilemma about attacking his or his conflict with his family. That was the great war at that time. You can read the comments there. I'll just keep going now. I won't read that comment out now. So the point I want to make here about the mutable cross is that Mercury, the ruler of Gemini, is regarded as the principle of illusion. He's quite a slippery character, Mercury. He rules the lower mind, higher mind, and also the intuition or buddhi, direct knowledge. And I do mention this with regard to glamour, to the principle of illusion, the balancing of the pairs of opposites upon the mental plane, as opposed to glamour, which is the balancing of the pairs of opposites on the astral plane. I do talk about this later when in the next article in this newsletter about, well, in fact, we're in it, aren't we? Yeah, about Pisces propaganda and mediocrity, not mediocrity. Although a lot of the media is very mediocre, I must say, mediocrity, the control of media in terms of feeding information, misinformation, disinformation, malinformation to us. That's the diet that we live on, and we are what we eat, as I say. This little face here, you are what you eat. So, and how Mercury, as a principle of illusion, especially for undeveloped humanity who haven't jumped off that mutable cross onto the fixed cross yet, can be subject to the illusion, and which is somewhat compounded by the fact that Neptune, in its lower expression, Neptune and Mercury are both the two major factors of intuition, I believe, and I talk about it quite a bit in my readings that I do for individuals. Neptune has its lower expression, as do all the signs, rays, and planets. They all have the lower and higher expression, even a third expression, an intermediate expression. So the lowest um, expression of Neptune relates to addiction, confusion, um, and deception. So when you add that together with the mercurial illusion, the immutable cross can create quite a lot of confusion. And in this news that I do talk about how, give some examples. There's just something here in the chat. Heidi says, will Mercury be retrograde again? Yes, Mercury goes retrograde about 4 times a year. So it's not an unusual thing. And of course, it's we've gone from a more superstitious understanding of Mercury retrograde, or a more fatalistic understanding of Mercury retrograde, to a more enlightened approach to Mercury retrograde now, I think, in the last few decades. And that is that they provide great periods for us to go back over things. Mercury retrograde periods, which can be a few weeks, to go back over things and to get them right. And that's why the typical Mercury retrograde period can result in delays, computer problems, travel, communications, all that kind of stuff, for one reason or another. And we have the opportunity to get things right, to go back over things, and where we might have been careless in the previous cycle and not planned or thought things out so well. So it all has to do with thinking, right thinking. Michael says to everyone, I too have been deeply impressed to read The Return of the Christ and the FBTC From Bethlehem to Calvary book as well. In the Bethlehem to Calvary book, which Heidi discusses during the month of February, during the night, I've always said that I have to read again The Return of the Christ. This was and is very useful indeed. So, and I think that these impressions will increase as we head towards 2025 and head towards 2030. The energy is accelerating all the time. We're being forced in a way to step up every day to meet the demands of the challenges that are coming into the world, to raise our frequencies, to stand and receive them, to make a stand as well. So, so we're looking here at this particular video picture of mass media, which I'm sure most of you are aware of, that basically been proven is quite blatant, and yet people still ignore this, of how so many television stations, particularly in the United States, are absolutely scripted with exactly the same phrases and keywords and buzzwords and so forth. It's really quite extraordinary. You can find many videos on YouTube. I think the original ones they used to have a lot of them have been deleted. So this particular one here is a more political accusation by one side of American politics. But anyway, you can find plenty of them online. So Pluto is the esoteric ruler of Pisces. Neptune is the exoteric ruler. Jupiter is also a ruler of Pisces. Jupiter, the ruler of the second ray of love wisdom, which is one of the two rays that comes through Pisces. Second ray of love wisdom and the sixth ray of devotion and idealism. The same two rays come through the opposite sign Virgo. And that's why these two start, well, also Gemini. It's the only ray to come through Gemini is the second ray of love wisdom. And the ruler of Sagittarius is Jupiter, the ruler of the second ray. So the second ray is very deeply associated with the mutable cross. And if you're on the, so just to also distinguish between these crosses, just because you have the mutable cross strongly in your horoscope doesn't necessarily mean to say that you're still on the mutable cross in terms of consciousness. I think most people who are into the teachings have already mounted the fixed cross, are close to have taken the first initiation at least, but they might have strong mutable cross signs in their horoscope, which give a particular specific blend for that soul in incarnation. We can see the second ray in some of the signs of the fixed cross and, of course, the cardinal cross, but it's very, very powerful with the mutable cross. And considering that from a generic point of view, over thousands and thousands of lifetimes, it's appropriate that it does carry that second ray energy, because that is the energy of the solar system. That is the trademark or the destination for humanity to learn about love, essentially, love or love wisdom. So I got also a glamour chart that I repeat quite regularly in my newsletters. The glamour book is only about less than 200 pages, I think, but it's chock full of powerful esoteric information. And some of you have done my Ageless Wisdom course, or our Ageless Wisdom course with the Aquarian Retreat Center, where I spent 3 classes on glamour and looking at Maya, glamour, and illusion. And these books are so profound, you come back to them every few years and read them again, and as if for the first time, because you've integrated the first class, if you like, in the book, and then you go to a deeper level the second time, third time, fourth time even. And that's why they call it the ageless wisdom, I think. A perennial philosophy. Excuse me. Any other questions or comments before I go on? I have written a lot about the new group of world servants, this mediating body or center, chakra, ajna center, in fact, between humanity and hierarchy. We have Shambhala as the planetary crown chakra. Hierarchy, of course, naturally the planetary heart center. Humanity, the throat center, which represents the development of intellect, of mind, of the expansion of consciousness, of the mental principle. But of course, that is inextricably entwined with the development of love. Love and mind, represented by Jupiter and Saturn, are inextricably entwined in evolution. And so between humanity, the throat center, and hierarchy, the heart center, is this mediating group, the new group of world service, which I describe in my newsletter as the inner and outer workers, the ones at the coalface in the outer world, and the esoteric workers. as well. So I'm not sure what the percentages or numbers of those people are. Probably thousands, hundreds of thousands, maybe millions. But something to consider. We are told in Esoteric Healing by Alice Bailey that these two major petals of the Ajna Center, hopefully you can see them all here, or at least the two major petals, are made up of 48 petals each, making 96 petals altogether. And I speculate that these petals represent groups and maybe some individuals all around the world who make up this new group of world servers. And I speculate further that the left petal, which is to do with the mind and to do with Venus, may be those who work in the outer world, and the right petal, which is the intuition or buddhi, is made up of the esoteric workers. But I suspect there's a mixture of both uh, from both sides. But we're looking here at people who are the new group of world servers who are well on their way to the second initiation. And you may have members in that Ajna Center, the new group of world servers, who have already achieved the third or fourth degree initiation. So their numbers would be very small. But if they represent one petal of a group that they lead or act on behalf of, then you can see how the potency. A good analogy to this is the fact that we only have about 63 masters on the planet who help to run the planet, so to speak. I'm sure they're very busy trying to keep up, but with 8 billion people. But and of course they work with a lot of members of the Deva kingdom, the angelic kingdom. But and so likewise, and similarly in the new group of world servers, it doesn't necessarily have to be quantity. It's about quality of energies of the people who are there, who can work consciously or mediate between hierarchy and humanity. There are many quite advanced people who don't have esoteric knowledge. They may have had esoteric knowledge in past lives, but they don't. They've chosen not to really go there in this life, and they work in the outer world of business, science, politics, you name it. That's something that we always have to remember. So another comment in the chat there. A long comment here by Inez regarding the glamours, and in this case, the ones for those on the path. I found this small patch that should give us all food for thought. Quote, one of the problems which confronts the aspirant is the problem of duly recognizing glamour when it arises, and of being aware of the glamours which beset his path, and the illusions which build a wall between him and the light. And that's from, of course, the book called Glamour. Indeed, there are many, many inspiring passages there, and it's, as with all of DK's books, they're quite a humbling read. If you've got any, dash of hubris in your makeup, then the Tibetan's books are the great levelers as far as developing humility goes. And I was thinking about the richness of these books just before the talk today, and the discipleship and the New Age books are really worth reading. I'd encourage you all to read both of them. They're about 700 pages each. They're not a short little book you can read in a weekend, that's for sure. But you'll find that they are basically the discipleship and New Age books. They're basically the letters that DK wrote to his disciples. He had 4 different groups of disciples between 1920 and 1950, mainly in the United States. made up of disciples who, well, one hadn't even taken the first initiation, but was related to decay through karma, and other disciples at several levels of initiation. And these are personal letters to these disciples. Can you imagine a master of wisdom writing a personal letter to you and telling you, um, pointing out to you certain things that you need to do? What a treasure. And also pointing out your race structure, what your rays are, and commenting on some of your past lives or what brought you to the point of where you are now. What an extraordinary gift. And I think for the most part, a lot of these people didn't really realize, maybe took for granted that. And also his experiments with these disciples were in the main unsuccessful in terms of a certain responsiveness that he was looking for, even though some of them were quite advanced. So anyway, Heidi says, I think that the blue books, yours and Agni Yoga and others, are like manuals to use continuously. Well, mine are really just sort of step down DK and Blavatsky, but and a bit of Agni Yoga thrown in as well. Agni Yoga, fire, or Agni Yoga, as some people call it, the walking the fiery path. But I do encourage you to read these books, because sometimes when you're reading passages, it's like he's speaking directly to you, and you go, "Oh my God!" It's quite it can be quite a humbling experience. So you'll get a lot of interesting information there, and there's some fairly famous people amongst those besides Alice Bailey, her husband Foster Bailey, um, the author Vera Stanley Alder, the esoteric writer from England. Another woman, I think she was the wife of Dale Carnegie, the famous philanthropist. Very interesting people. This information, by the way, was not revealed in those books. It's only been revealed in certain papers that were released afterwards that I've posted somewhere on my website. Anyway, and we also, through those papers, were able to get the birth dates of a lot of these people and do their horoscopes, examine their horoscopes, and compare them with the information that TK gave with the rays. So, discipleship in the New Age, and of course, the word discipleship has that word discipline in it. When you start to discipline the astral nature and getting towards the second initiation, you really step from the path of being an aspirant to the mysteries to a disciple. And then in discipleship, there are another 6 stages of discipleship that the Tibetan breaks down in his book, which are really worth looking at as well. I mean, these are really books of science. This is esoteric science, and what he's given us is pure gold in terms of the occult knowledge, the occult sciences that we can learn and apply practically in our lives as we move from being mystics, which most of us are in many ways. I always say we're mystics learning to be occultists, to learn those occult laws and apply them and become true white magicians, essentially. And that reminds me also of another book, A Treatise on White Magic is a must, I think. It gives all the rules of the road in that book, and particularly related to the astral body and the control of the astral body. So another excellent one to read. All right. So I talk about solutions to to the various global conflicts going on at the moment in terms of meditation group. I mentioned one here um, in this particular article about Israel, but there are many around, and you can also, of course, meditate by yourself or in groups of two or three or in a triangle regarding um, dissolving and dissipating the glamours that surround, or the clouds of glamour that surround the planet. My picture's still up on the screen. I can't see myself. Not that I really want to look at it, but oh yeah, there I am. Okay. Right. So, any other comments or questions from Michael, Ria, someone called Gemini, someone else called Administrator? Who are you? Welcome, anyway, wherever you are, and the rest of you who come here regularly. But a fairly small crew today, but quality, not quantity, I always say. So please share some impressions or from the meditation or any other questions before we wrap it up in a few minutes. Something in the chat here. Michael says, any thoughts on the recent solar flares? Well, they're going on all the time, aren't they? They're very hard to keep up with. Some people are more expert on this subject, but essentially they always bring through very powerful energies. And of course, with the northern lights or the southern lights, the borealis, that make the most magical images in the sky that go all night in many regions. They can be very inspiring just from that point of view. But of course, they're bringing through uh, very powerful frequencies, electromagnetic frequencies from the sun, and also, of course, other planets that express themselves with the sun. For instance, we're told in the sign of Leo, which is ruled by the sun, that it veils Neptune at one level and Uranus at another level. Neptune, the ruler of the second ray of love wisdom, the energy of the Christ principle, Uranus, the ruler of the seventh ray. So we're being impacted by these solar flares constantly. They go in 11-year cycles, and there are other cycles associated with them as well that can be very disruptive to the electrical grid of the whole planet. You know, they can knock out these electrical storms can sometimes knock out whole power grids and create havoc. Perhaps my internet problems for the last 10 days have been related to solar flares. I haven't been keeping up with them lately, so I'm not sure whether um, they've been being issued. Perhaps Michael, you might know. Most intense since 1970, Michael says. So wow, that's 53 years. And 1970 was a powerful time of change, disruption, was it not? From the late 60s to the early 70s, very powerful. And of course, we have Neptune in its own sign of Pisces right now, Uranus and Taurus. I think both these planets are really creating a lot of potencies. Anyone else? Well, lots to reflect on. So don't forget, if you're somewhere in the world where the full moon falls in your waking hours, try to meditate 1 hour before leading up to the full moon. That's the most powerful gateway for any of the full moons. It's 1 hour before. So we in Western Europe will be able to do that hopefully at 12:30 p.m. tomorrow. Of course, times will vary depending on where you are. But and also the people when you go in, if you're just by yourself, to link up with people that you know or groups that you know of, like our group here and other groups, and just keep on building that network of light that surrounds the planet. Um, so happy full moon, everyone, and we'll see you in the next meditation at the equinox. I'll hand it back to you, Inez. Thank you.
Okay, thank you all for coming, and we'll see you soon.